It is time for our weekly chat with reporter Christine Byers, who writes the Byers Beat column for KSDK.com. And this week she is bringing us new insight about the judge who sentenced 3 former aldermen earlier this week for federal bribery charges.
Christine's been following the story since day one and tag team coverage of this week's sentencing hearings in court with our political editor, Mark Maxwell. So Christine, of course, there's sentencing guidelines that the judge has for all of the crimes for these 3 men. How harsh were the sentences when you look at the sentencing guidelines that the judge had to go by?
Sure. So each of these defendants got just 1 month less than the maximum that was allowed under these sentencing guidelines. And the judge in this case talked a lot about deterrence and how he really wanted to send a message that public corruption won't be tolerated, and if you're caught doing it, this is what you're facing.
Do you think, Christine, though, that they will serve the entire sentences, or do you think that they'll, be out on parole earlier?
Well, I mean, certainly it depends on what their attorneys do. But if you look at one of our most recent cases, which was Steve Stanger in St. Louis County, he was sentenced to about 46 months in federal prison. But the First Step Act that came into play for his case meant that he was able to get out in 27 months.
And you were in the courtroom after sentencing happened for the former president of the Board of Aldermen, Lewis Reed. Something happened? There was some kind of fireworks? What happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So some members of Reed's family started shouting profanities at a man who claimed to be a taxpayer and a victim and had some pretty unfavorable things to say about the former Board of Aldermen president in the hearing to the judge, telling the judge you need to throw the book at him, ripped up a resolution that Lewis Reed had signed and just said that, all these people were victims of his because of his misconduct. And so a member of Reed's family confronted him in the courtroom after the sentencing was over. FBI agents sort of escorted her out right away, and then out in the hallway, the shouting continued at this man, and members of Reed's family and supporters also shouted at the prosecutor in this case, and profanities and that sort of thing. But Lewis Reed, waved them off and said, please stop, which they did. But some tense moments for sure.
Quickly, when do you think they'll all report to prison, Christine?
So it'll take about 2 to 3 months for the Federal Bureau of Prisons to figure out where they're going to be going.
All right, good stuff, Christine. You can see Byers Beat on KSDK.com/Byers Beat, and that story will be up in just a bit.